Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wolfhound Franchising Podcast. I'm Sean Livingston, franchise broker and consultant and member of the Franchise Brokers Association. And today I'd like to talk about what business opportunity is right for you. There is a franchise in almost every industry, and they have a massively wide investment range. You'll see some franchises from 50,000 to 2 million, right? There's a large range there. So we need to look at a number of factors and to narrow down what would be the best opportunity for you and what fits you, your lifestyle, with a number of other things. But what is the right opportunity for you? First thing I would look at when I'm speaking with a client and we're looking for what's a good business opportunity or franchise to direct them into, or we start to even get down to narrowing down options. First thing, we look at experience. I'm going to ask them about their experience, their background. What job are you coming from? Think about what job you're coming from, whether you're coming from the military and what job you did there. But what if you got out 10 years ago and you've been sitting in an office for the last 10 years? So we want to look at what job you're coming from, what skills that job provided you, or what was that background like? Did you enjoy it? The last thing we want to do is look at a business that you want to get, that you're going to go into. We don't want you to put you back into something that you didn't like doing in the first place, right? If you look at your job, these are what we're going to go over today is questions. Think about the questions that you could ask yourself. What business would be right for me? Think about what you didn't like about that office or about the cubicle or sales job you were in, right? What didn't you like about it? You don't want to recreate that. We also don't want to go into this with blinders on either. There's ways that we can look at the skills or the experience that you have and use it in a different way. Especially a franchise. A franchise is just going to like that you're a veteran and that you might have other skills involved than just what your MOS was. You were a quartermaster, right? Supply guy or something. You don't have to go into logistics. We can find something else. There are other things that you can do. If you're a CPA, you don't always have to go into a tax preparation franchise, right? Don't go into this with blinders on, is what I'm saying. So first thing we're going to look at is experience and background, and what can you bring to the table from your past experiences. So this second part, I think, is even bigger than looking at what you did in some past experience. Okay. Let's think about what you enjoy doing. Some people don't even think about that. Oh, if I'm going into a business, what do I enjoy? Right. But it's not always the thing that you enjoy. It might be the concept. It might be a hobby that you can turn into something that you as a business. If you like working with your hands, there's a ton of things out there that we can find that if you like working with your hands and doing something and getting out and doing it, right? So, not necessarily in some franchises, you're going to be the guy, the owner, operator, the guy actually doing the work. Other times you're not, but we can look at what you like doing, your hobby. It might be giving back to the community, right? Some people just want to have something that feels good. They're giving back to the community. They're doing something more. I'll give you an example. Let's say mental health. Right? There's even a franchise out there that helps with, it's almost like a guardian ad litem. Like they want to do something that helps somebody. right? Senior care. You're helping a family or helping someone, take care of that loved one. That might be something that you're passionate about. So we can look at those types of things and narrow down where you want to go into, because you may have never thought about that before. I had a client before that was, he was coming out of an executive position, and as we were talking, we realized we're looking at a whole bunch of other things, and his job was basically, he was an executive at basically construction supplies and stuff like that. And he tells me he just never really enjoyed it. It was the job he got out when he was in the Army, and the next thing you know, he's there for 20 more years. Right? So, but what did he enjoy? He said, I like my dogs, right? So he's in a pet franchise, right? He loves animals. So why don't, and the dog industry is $100 billion growing industry. So if you have a dog, it's like having a child. So those are the types of things that we want to look at to help direct you into what you might enjoy. If you enjoy it, you're going to be successful and excited about. Another question you might want to ask yourself, or what I always like asking when I'm speaking with someone, is, what do you not want to do? Now think about that. If you're thinking about it, what do I not want to do? I don't want to be in an office, or I don't want to be dealing with animals, or I don't want to deal with kids, right? That can eliminate a whole slew of things right there. So we can start to narrow that down. So many people don't actually, they try to focus on what they want to do, but not what they necessarily don't want to do. Because then there might be something out there that you will enjoy doing, just you haven't thought about it. There is a franchise in just about everything. I don't know. I had a former Marine who went into popsicles. Right? This is a franchise that basically is kind of, it's not not an ice cream truck driving around a neighborhood, but they're doing corporate events and school events and stuff like that. So we got to look at what you love doing, or what is it that you like about it that you like doing. So these next couple of questions can really help narrow down what type of business opportunity would be right for you. If you're thinking about a business or a franchise, think about what work-life balance you're looking for, or what work-life balance does that business or that franchise offer you. So when I mean by what work-life balance, what hours are you going to work? Are you in a home office, an office space, a retail location? Kids. If you have kids, what kind of work-life balance do you want to have with your kids, right? So do you want the flexibility of being able to pick them up from school? Or do you want or we're looking at your hours, right? If you're in a retail location, you might be open 6-7 days a week. If you're running it from a small office or a home office or something, you might be more available, and you might only be open 4 or 5 days a week, right? So those types of things you need to think about too. If you need a flexible schedule, are you working the business directly yourself as an owner operator, or is it more of an investment, or is it more semi-absentee? And what I mean by that is, let's say, so that 35% of veterans that start a business as a secondary income, right? This may fall into that. We mentioned that in the last episode. So I'll give you an example. I had a client that got into a real estate franchise. And so he maintained, he was overworking himself for like the first year, but he maintained his job while he was starting the business. And he even said he could have easily left his job at 6 months. But at the end of that year, when he finally left his job, it was much easier to continue to run the business. He had brought on like 3 real estate agents to work as his managers and stuff, so that he was trying to manage the business from above. Now you can do that, and that would be more semi-absentee. Semi-absentee might be more of you're working 20 to 30 hours a week. But consider this too, is that you're also paying someone else to then to manage the business instead of yourself being there all the time. If you're working a franchise or a business that you do directly, right? Let's say something like home inspections. You might be the home inspector yourself, and you're running the business. It's just you, and you're like the only employee until you're able to scale and bring someone on. So you might be actually doing the work yourself, right? But those types of, let's say that type of franchise might be much less expensive, much lower cost to get started because of the fact that you're doing it yourself. So you may need to start out that way. The businesses that are going to be semi-absentee or totally absentee, if you think it's like more of an investment, it's going to cost you a lot more because of the fact that you're going to have people in there and stuff like that. But anyway, coming back to that work-life balance, you want to find that business that offers that type of work-life balance and think about the way that the business is operated, and that might help you narrow that down. Another good business opportunity here to be an example would be vending machines. Some people really like that, right? So let's say you start off with like 10 vending machines, right? Now, profitability wise, you're probably not making as much profit as you might be in a lot of other businesses or franchises, but it is considered actually a business opportunity where you own the whole thing. And so that you're only spending, let's say you have 10 machines. On average, they say that you'd only be spending 10 hours a week working on your business on those machines. Whether it's filling the machines, checking them, stuff like that, you only spend about an hour a week per machine. So now that you're working 10 hours a week on a side business, it might be, bringing in, a solid secondary income, right? And you may have it for years, and you could pass it on to your kids, but that gives you flexibility, having a side business, but then also being able to have the flexibility, have something like a safe zone. If you get laid off, you have that side business already there, and you're able to have the time to, like I said, I don't know, pick your kids up from school or something like that, attend a game. You're not working on Saturdays or Sundays, right? The franchise that I was in was in education. So we were open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Oftentimes I found myself being there 6 days a week. I had to be there when I was meeting with clients. Usually they're coming in, they're coming in after their work hours. So now I'm there at the time that I could have been, at home eating dinner with my kids or something. I had to be at work. So there's some of that. We're on Saturdays or something like that, or something goes on. You're getting you're getting a phone call and you need to go in to help, take care of something. It is your business. So, and it's a retail location. So what I had was in a retail location. So now always have to have somebody there at the front desk in case somebody walks in the front door. You can't have something in a retail location and have it closed all the time. So thinking about those types of things you know, in that, right? So, I talk to a lot of people that want like a you know, a bar or the brewery type of place or something. Think about the hours you're going to work. Not to mention the cost, and as we get into, if we're going down that route, we're going to be doing the due diligence and, how much your investment is, how much your profitability is, but then how much are expenses? That might be something else to think of. Not necessarily like what, I like having the big sign on the building, but what's your, when you think of profitability, what are the expenses that are going on in between the top line and the bottom line? You have rent, you have utilities, you have a lot more payroll. So everything, right? So there's a lot to cover and a lot to think about when you're considering a business opportunity or a franchise when we're doing when we're doing that due diligence. And this might help narrow those things down to know what industry you're getting into. And then from there, looking at several industries, knowing what franchise we would look at. You might also find the company culture. So that's one of the things that we would do is talk to the reps, talk to the franchise themselves. And it doesn't mean you're signing something up, right? But you're learning how they operate and how they are. So if you're going to be working with them, do you like the company culture that they have, and will you work well with them, right? So all these are types of questions that you want to ask yourself. If you find a resale business, so for example, for mine was a resale. It had the franchise had already been there for 20 years. So I purchased it from that franchisee that had been there for a long time. And so when you do that, you have to you're going to do the due diligence on that as well and see how much, how much do they work? What is the profitability of this and that and the other, right? Next question would be, after we get through all that, one that might actually narrow things down a whole lot more is your own financial capabilities. So this can be a wake-up call too. So if you only have, $50,000 saved, or let's say that's, you have put aside or in your 401k or something, right? If you have $50,000 in cash, some kind of liquid assets, you're probably not going to be able to take on a $500,000, something that's going to cost you $500,000, because, with loans and stuff like that, we probably want to look a little bit smaller, right? And I want to go into a financial episode upcoming, so stay tuned to listen to that one as well, as we'll go into different loans and stuff like that, and we'll talk to a couple people that that are in the financial industry, and I can tell you those types of things and what might be available for you. But back to your financial capabilities. Think about, that retail space might be a whole lot more expensive, but there are, home, really what I've seen, home and mobile based franchises, I think are a whole lot more profitable, and typically they're making more in revenue. You may not think that, or you may not see them all the time because the sign isn't all over the building or in the shopping center that you're going into. But start looking around. You may see the van driving down the road, right? You're probably passing them all the time to different, everything from painting to heating and air to plumbing to electrical to flooring, blinds, whatever. You might be passing them all the time and not even realize it. but oftentimes I've seen their profitability is a lot higher than you would, opening up something in a retail place. So that's a question you want to ask yourself, is what you're really looking for and what you want to be doing, right? Another question, again, back to, are you going to be the salesperson or the technician, right? Like I said, you might be the home inspector, or there are things where you might be the consultant. I'll give you an example of, a kitchen remodeling franchise, right? You may be the main salesperson or consultant for a while until you start to build that business. So take that in consideration. That first year or two, you might be working it a whole lot more than you will be later on. But you get to know and learn the sales process and how it operates so that you can bring on a salesperson, help teach them. And let's say worst comes to worst. Remember back in the last episode, we talked about planning, adaptability. That will help you actually be more adaptable and have that pace plan. Whatever happens to your main salesperson, I mean, he could be out there crushing it all the time, but then get sick, or I don't know, his wife's job changes and they have to move across the country, right? All of a sudden you're down a salesperson trying to hire someone, but you got to jump in and you know that you're comfortable taking that over. So the next question to ask yourself when you're looking at what type of business would be right for you would be, what's your personality? Sales personality, I mean. So are you the salesy type of guy who can fast talk and who can push that sale? There are certain types of businesses or franchises that might need that type of person. Others are more of like a consultant type of sale. I'll give you an example. Like, let's say a kitchen remodeling would be more of a consultant. You come in, you talk to the person, you see their kitchen, you give them the options, you build rapport, right? That's more of that consultant. I think I'm more of a consultant type salesperson. I don't want to be, the hard pushy salesman, right? Or it might be the region you're in. If you're in New York, that might a pushy salesman might be needed. If you're in Tennessee, probably a slower pace might be needed, right? The franchise I was with was headquartered in New Jersey, so they wanted us to be more of this fast-talking salesperson. But down in North Carolina, the client's going to tell you, "Hold on a second, I'm going to go back and talk to my family about this." So there is more of that rapport building, or and talking to them, and so there's a longer sales process too. So that might be something also to consider in what your personality is, and does it meet or match that of that particular business. So probably last but not least, right? And I always do try to bring this up, especially if you're married, right? Well, you'd have to be married, but what does your wife do? Think about what your wife does as well, because she's going to have a say in the business too. If you're looking at a business opportunity or a franchise, more than likely she's going to have to sign some documents too. And there's regulations to that. Remember, all rules are written in blood. So somewhere along the way, someone tried to open up a business without their wife knowing about it. So ultimately, at some point, we're going to have to talk to your wife and have her on the call. She needs to be able to know about it. So that might be something to consider. Is one, what does your wife do? Is she going to stay in her job? Is she going to work the business with you? I have a client that got into his franchise, and his wife, they had just recently had a baby. She's staying at home. So now at this point, she's decided she's become his kind of like, managing kind of the front end of the office, that sort of stuff, while he's out managing the jobs that are going on, right? So so she might be working with you, and so she might need some input too, to see if she's going to fit that business model, or she may know you better than than you know yourself sometimes, right? Or vice versa, so that can play into a factor of what happens, or what you're thinking of. You may want to stick in your job, and you're thinking of. I have a client who, he's staying in his job. He has a good solid job. He's at the office. He likes what he does. He's looking at to invest in a business, and his wife worked in mental health. Currently works for like a nonprofit, but working in mental health, what did that lead to? There's actually several mental health franchises out there. So we start looking at that, because that's to her, that's like, oh wow, this is great, and it's helping the community. They were very So again, back to all those questions we were looking at. Their sense was, I want to help the community. I want to be able to do something that's helping people. So that was like a perfect fit for them. So all those types of questions and those scenarios, those personality, everything in there really helps us narrow down when to look at what business opportunity would be right for you. Not just if you're a supply guy and you want to go into logistics, it might not necessarily be the best fit, right? So, and you may not be thinking about all the other things that may be a factor. If you get into it and realize your work-life balance is horrible because all of a sudden you're at your business 7 days a week and your wife is at home mad at you because you're not home with the kids or something like that, there might be a problem, right? So we always want to make sure we look at all of those and make sure you get into the right business. If you're in the right business, it'll be easier to succeed, and more likely you'll succeed as well. Well, I hope everyone found that information helpful. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'd be glad to help. And today I'd like to end with a quote from Basil Walsh. Planning is the open road. If you don't know where you are going, how can you expect to get there? Thanks, and I'll see you next time.